Now, on this issue, I'm joined by Julia Kril, Executive Director, B&K Agency. Madam, my first question to you is, it's unfortunate that, there are a lot of, Indians who have been conscripted, but it's also a story about the way Russians are fighting their war. They are forcing prisoners to fight their war.
Yeah, and it is a very common practice for the Russian Federation, because they are bringing in not only people from India, but also people from China, Nepal, North Korea, Iraq, African countries, Egypt, Kenya. There are so many stories by now released of prisoners of war who have been either tricked by the Russian forces to come and fight on the Russian side, or they have been promised vast amount of money to sustain their families, to sustain their lives. And this is becoming a widespread practice, as I am assuming that the people in the Russian Federation are refusing to either being conscripted, or Russia is losing people and they're trying to, go to the weak countries, to some of the weak partners, and this way support the troops and bring in the people. Then the problem is that these young kids they do not have sufficient training, they do not have sufficient resources, they do not have sufficient knowledge that they will be going to fight the war in Ukraine. And what they're doing, they're coming to the field, and then a few days later they find Ukrainian troops and they try to give up and to become prisoners of war in Ukraine in order to avoid dying on the field. And we've seen this with Wagner that have been doing the recruitment in Africa. We've seen these stories now in India. We've seen recently stories from soldiers from Egypt, from Kenya, who have all given the same kind of statements that they would rather stay prisoners of war in Ukraine than be fighting.
Okay, Julia, is it correct on my part to say that is Russia falling short of men to fight the war, and this is why this forced conscription is taking place?
I think so, yes. Also, because if you look at the types of the people who are fighting on the ground, these are the Russian prisoners and these are the international prisoners. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of these kids that have been some of the international guys who have been put in the prison in Russia, that the charges could have been, not fully accurate. And this is incredibly sad and concerning. And my understanding is that Prime Minister Modi has addressed the issue to Vladimir Putin, and I'm very curious to see if the conscription of Indian citizens will stop. But we've seen so many accounts of North Koreans, Iraqi, African people being conscribed, because this is much cheaper for Russians. They can promise good amounts of money without delivering that, and they are just ruthlessly using innocent people.
Is it also because of the fact that the conscription is not taking place voluntarily in Russia? Is there an assessment to that people generally at the time of war, nationalism, they say, well, we want to serve the country? That is not happening in Russia?
Well, there are still people who want to serve the country, and there are also accounts of Russian soldiers who are conscribing into the Russian army with the actual intention to experience killing and experience murdering Ukrainian citizens. But my assessment is that the numbers of fallen Russian soldiers are just not being accurate, and a lot more people are dying on battlefield than Russia is reporting.
Think that it's is on the higher side, the entire deployment that has taken place of the Russian soldiers, the casualties on the higher side. Why do you say that?
Because if Russian side will be putting accurate accounts of people who died, they will be seeing very high losses, and people will be starting to understand that Russia is not winning this war. That this is the war of endurance, and whoever will endure for the longest will probably achieve some of their gains, but there's also risks of having people going into uprising as they see the actual amounts of casualties. And then Russia also has its partners that are supporting financially the war, and if they see the amount of casualties in military, in personnel, in equipment, then they will be understanding that Russians are not advancing as strongly as they are reporting it in their own news.